Ever since we were kids, toys were probably the most important thing in our childhood. Even though we have like TVs, phones, and iPads, or whatever this generation has, nothing compares to the endless source of creativity that toys really give you. I mean, like, there's so many things you could do with them, and the way it actually involves like your creativity and not just like addicting a kid to their screens, brain rot content is just different. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is there's just so many toys that changed our lives. But compared to any other toy, I feel like there's just one type of toy that stands out. Toy guns are that one toy that when you see, you can never really take your eyes off of. I mean, I feel like toy guns are just something that can be enjoyed by all ages. Like, if you're a kid and you're given a toy gun, you'll play with it for like hours. You'll be addicted to it. And even if you give an adult like a Nerf gun that's a minigun with 100 rounds and just let them shoot it endlessly at anyone and anything they want, I bet they enjoy that. Anyway, my point stands. Toy guns can be enjoyed by anyone, and they're always evolving, even to this day. We have airsoft that, you know, is literally for older people, and then we have things like this that for kids that literally look like real guns. What I'm trying to say, toy guns are like kind of this thing that can be enjoyed by anyone, right? I mean, the feeling of pulling the trigger, feeling like you're on a battleground or in a war, like no other toy can really compare to this satisfaction. I don't think you can say toy guns and put every single type into one category. Like, there are so many different types of toy guns and different varieties that I think it deserves a video explaining every single type of toy gun and how they evolved over time. Are you ever walking outside and come upon a tree and like branches of trees break off all the time, but if you're lucky enough, the branch of the tree may look a little like a weapon. Of course, everything here is just imagination, but if you remember finding these and playing with them, you know exactly how fun a little stick can actually be. Rubber bands were invented in 1843, and they're known to hold multiple objects together, but in 1845, the first rubber band gun was invented. And I think it's honestly crazy how it went from a utility to a weapon in only 2 years. Like, that's a bit wild. I think we can all agree water guns are a must-need in the summertime. Water blasters are some of the best toys invented. Speaking of that, the first water gun that was invented that we still know to this day is the SUSA liquid pistol, which looks absolutely insane. Inside the gun is this little squeeze ball and tubing that would allow it to shoot water, but the first known water blaster that uses air pressure to allow it to shoot is the Cosmic Liquidator, whatever, by Sun Products Corp. But of course, the first Super Soaker was the Power Drencher in 1990, which paved the way for the future of water blasters. Now, we could always make this hand gesture with our hands ever since we were put on this earth. But the first real time people used this as a hand gesture was around the 1960s to 70s, where the people at Texas Tech University used this hand gesture to counter their rival's hand gesture, which was like these finger horns. And ever since then, this hand gesture became like very popular. And it was even featured in like video games and stuff. And I think now mostly everyone knows what this hand gesture symbolizes. In the 1960s, paintball guns were invented. At first, they were used to like mark trees and cattle and were never intended to be used on people. But the first game of paintball really took place in 1981, where a group of people made flags where the objective was to collect all the flags. And ever since that, the paintball sport just became popular, and the activity is still played to this day. In the early 1970s, the people of Japan created a toy gun that instead of shooting real bullets like a real gun, it shot out safe airsoft BBs that couldn't kill, but still hurt. These are used for training for the use of real guns due to how realistic they make them. And people do battles and stuff. Like, look at this thing. It looks crazy. These little carrot guns were made in 1981. or around that time, because these toys usually mimic realistic guns, but instead of using like gunpowder, it's activated by this little spring mechanism that makes this little blowback effect, you know. And we don't really know when these were invented, but we can assume it's after the 1980s due to them mostly being 3D printed. Laser tag is one of the best games you can go out and play as a child, and they were invented around 1982 and first played in 1984 in Texas. The laser tag gun sends out a pulse of infrared lights when the trigger is pulled, and when the sensors on your vest sense the pulse from another gun, it is registered as a hit. This interaction is kind of like, you know, using a remote on your TV. I bet everyone knows what these toys are because they're one of the most popular toy brands ever. But these toys were originally made in 1989, where the Nerf Blaster Ball was invented, and the Sharpshooter in 1992, which definitely had a huge impact on the future of toy guns. Gel blasters, which were introduced in the 1990s, are a safer alternative to airsoft blasters and are manufactured in China. Gel blasters weren't really popular and were considered a downgrade from airsoft, but in the early 2000s, airsoft was actually banned in Australia, which really hurt gun collectors over there. And China noticed this and started mass producing them, and Australia became obsessed with these since they weren't banned. It was kind of like a loophole to enjoy toy blasters, and over time were becoming much more realistic and powerful. And now, time for the most realistic toy of them all.